In a minute or two, as you listen to the words of Psalm 53, you might think that they sound familiar. And if you do think that, then you're right. Psalm 53 is almost a word-for-word repeat of Psalm 14, which we thought about back on April the 1st. Almost word for word, but not quite. And the changes are quite interesting. One change is in the word used to represent God. In Psalm 14, God is addressed as the Lord, or Yahweh, which in Psalm 53 has changed to God or Elohim. But why the change? Well, scholars believe that this all stems from different traditions growing in the north and in the south. Israel and Judah were two competing Hebrew tribal groupings, with Israel in the north and Judah in the south. They had been united as one kingdom under Saul, and then David, and then Solomon, but they separated thereafter under separate kings, with capital cities in Samaria in the north and Jerusalem in the south. And even into the New Testament, we still have this separation, this animosity between the Samaritans in the north and the Jews in the south. Well, the dominant tradition in the south stemmed from Aaron, and in the north it stemmed from Moses. And so it's not a surprise then to find some of this same religious literature gathered and refined in each place according to local ritual traditions. After Samaria fell to the invading Assyrians some 720 years before Jesus was born, well, some came from the north to Judah, and the two traditions began to mix and to compete. At one time, these two versions, and in fact the two groups of songs to which they belong, would have been used by different denominations of Hebrew priests in different places. Well, later, when scribes compiled different collections into a new, larger anthology, well, so we end up with Psalms 14 and 53, variations on an ancient Hebrew lament collected in the same book. Psalm 53 is for the director of music, according to Mahalath, a maskil of David. The fool says in his heart, "There is no God." They are corrupt, and their ways are vile. There is no one who does good. God looks down from heaven on all mankind to see if there are any who understand, any who seek God. Everyone has turned away. All have become corrupt. There is no one who does good, not even one. Do all these evildoers know nothing? They devour my people as though eating bread. They never call on God. But there they are, overwhelmed with dread, where there was nothing to dread. God scattered the bones of those who attacked you. You put them to shame, for God despised them. Oh, that salvation for Israel would come out of Zion, when God restores his people. Let Jacob rejoice and Israel be glad. There are other small differences between the two Psalms. Psalm 53 has a longer heading, for example, but the biggest difference occurs in verse 5. From the northern Moses tradition, we have, "But there they are, overwhelmed with dread where there was nothing to dread. God scattered the bones of those who attacked you. You put them to shame, for God despised them." Whilst the southern Aaronic tradition has, "But there they are, overwhelmed with dread, for God is present in the company of the righteous. You evildoers frustrate the plans of the poor, but the Lord is their refuge." Whereas Psalm 14 has a greater focus upon justice and God's vindication of the oppressed, Psalm 53 changes that focus towards a deliverance from enemies. Perhaps Psalm 14 does fit better with the focus of Book 1 of the Psalms, which looks towards peace and justice in the coming kingdom of the Messiah, while Psalm 53 is a better fit in Book 2, which looks in hope towards a future return to the temple in Zion and fulfillment of God's rule over the nations. There is merit, therefore, in having both versions of the psalm, which rebukes the ungodly, laments the corruption of the human race, decries the Hebrews' enemies, and appeals for God to restore the nation in a time of oppression or exile. A prayer for today. Father in heaven, sometimes we can get hung up on history and tradition, and we look for difference. But you, Lord, are the Holy One, the God of heaven and earth. We turn to you and to the promise of peace and fulfillment as we look forward to the coming day of peace through Jesus Christ, in whom we are made one. Amen.